Hi friend. Today I wanted to tell you about all the zines that I made in 2025. Well, let's just start with zine number 1. This is the first zine that I made in 2025 in January. This is called Merriweather's Friendship Adventure. One of my goals for 2025 was to make 12 zines, but another of my goals was to send more mail. I made this zine as an invitation to my friends for a year-long letter adventure. I created this character called Merriweather, and here is some information about the year-long adventure that I was planning. At this point, when I made this zine, I didn't have everything planned out, but I did create a map, which is actually on the back of the zine. Let me show you. This is the map, all the different places that we were going to go on our letter adventure. I really like maps, and it was fun to create this one. Just a few little hints about what will happen on our friendship adventure. And this is the land that I created called Lumora. So this is an introduction to that letter adventure. If you want to know more about that, let me know. Okay, zine number 2 that I made in February is Send More Mail. Why you should send more mail and fun, creative ways to do it. Clearly, sending mail was on my mind at this point. I really like this zine. I really liked how I made this one. I made this one digitally. I used some textures, some like fabric textures for the backgrounds here. I tried to keep the colors cohesive throughout. These are some benefits of sending snail mail. Where to start, some easy ways to start sending more mail. I'm a little bit of a stamp nerd, so I love to decorate my envelopes with cool, new, interesting stamps, and I always keep an eye out for new stamps that are coming out from USPS. Here is some information about envelope art. You could send something as simple as a postcard or a birthday card, but then you can make the envelope really special. Some pen pal gifts that you can put inside, just little extras that you might want to include in your mail. Some mail challenges, some things that maybe to inspire sending more mail. So as we just talked about, I did a big project where I created mail every month. But there's various other different ways that you could send more mail with a challenge, such as postcard roulette, draw names from a hat, or use an app to choose a random recipient from your friends and family to send a postcard to. Random sticker swap. Pick 5 random stickers from your stash and mail them to a friend. There's lots of different ways that you can send more mail. I also put down a few different places where you can find mail swaps online, but of course it's really important that you're not sharing your address with people that you don't trust. You need to be really careful with obviously putting your information online. And that was my second zine of the year, another mini zine. Okay, zine number 3 in March was Dogs We Met at the Park. To make this zine, I actually used a sheet of vintage paper from a vintage magazine. So it says it's from April 1949, and I used that as the background. And then I used this colorful paper. We went to a dog event and we met lots of different dogs at the park, and I just wanted to document that. So of course this is me and Winston. And then we saw a tiny baby Frenchie, which is really cute because this is Winston, and then the baby Frenchie was so tiny. And then we saw a big boy chunky Frenchie. So that was cute too. So this is like a Frenchie page. And then we saw a tiny cute Chihuahua, a floofy Great Pyrenees, a sweet little Boston Terrier, golden doodle with a cool haircut. Those golden doodles are always so friendly. And a corgi with a purple bow tie called Lance. So it was really fun to just draw little images of these dogs. And because I drew them on separate paper, if I made a mistake, I could just redraw it. But it was really fun drawing all these different types of dogs for this. And I really like how this one came out. Okay, zine number 4 is Let's Get Whimsical, a pocket guide to adding magic, silliness, and joy to your day. I'm not sure where the master copy is for this one, but I did make this one with paper and pen. I didn't do this one digitally. So I have some stickers on here and some pieces of pattern papers. So I started off with some information about the definition of whimsical, so we could see what we were looking at. Here's some easy ways to add whimsy to your life. Again, I was using some washi tape here, some stickers, whimsical rituals for everyday magic. So just like little ways that you can add a little more whimsy and intention to your life. How to create your own whimsical day. It's just some prompts of today I want to feel, my magic word of the day is, today's soundtrack, just to get you thinking about things that would make you feel a little bit more joyful in your day. Here's a continuation of planning out a whimsical day, so somewhere you want to visit, something extra you could add to an outfit, quest for the day, and then I also added a whimsical playlist on the back and added a QR code here. I really like how colorful this is, how I was able to use lots of different stickers and washi tape. I like how this one came out. This is zine number 5. This one is an interactive zine. Again, another non-digital analog zine that I made. I actually made this one at a zine meetup that I went to. So I took a piece of paper and I used my stickers. I have these Animal Crossing stickers, which I think are cute. And I just put like lots of different moods and things in here. So I started off drawing a cassette tape for the front cover. I just put various different songs from different times in a person's life. So song from the first album you bought, song from your first concert you attended, song that makes you happy, those kind of things. 10 different situations that you might think of a song from. Then here's a space to write your full playlist at the back. And then on the back is a copy of the tape, the cassette tape. You did it. One thing I really like about this one is that I can print it out on any color paper. So I can have various different color copies of this, and it's going to make the zine look a little bit different. I really like zines that are just monochrome that I can just print out on different color pages, so they'll look different. So I printed this out on various different bright colored paper and sent these out to my friends. This is zine number 6. This is Mr. Winston. This one I created digitally, but I pulled in some images of things like buttons, paper stars. This is like a little fact zine about Winston, my Frenchie. So this first page, I kind of have him like an image, like a little Tamagotchi. He's always very happy, but he's always very hungry. And he's not super disciplined. Sometimes he is. Sometimes he's more disciplined than others. And here are some stats about him: his breed, color, his favorite toy, and his favorite treat. And then I added some pictures from his birthday. It's a whole page of things that he likes to do. Lots of pictures. This one's very picture heavy. And then here is things that he dislikes doing. This one was really fun to make. I really enjoy making these digital one-page mini zines. Okay, zine number 7 is my favorite UK snacks, part 1, because these are not all of my favorite UK snacks. In July, we had to take an impromptu trip over to the UK. Whilst I was there, I picked out some of my favorite snacks that I just can't get in the US and made a zine about it. I got to have some pickled onion space raiders while I was there, and those are delicious. They remind me of my childhood. I had those a lot in my childhood. These Milky Bar creamy desserts. So good. I just don't feel like there's enough white chocolate in the US, and I really like white chocolate. I don't really love milk chocolate that much, but I do really like white chocolate. Lucozade orange energy drink. I used to always have this when I was sick when I was a kid. Mini cheddar cheese crackers. These are delicious. I suppose they're kind of like cheesy Ritz crackers. Crunchy nut cornflakes are my all-time favorite breakfast cereal, but I just can't get them in the States. And then I had to include the Gerard's Welsh Oaties. As it says here, it's a sweet oat treat topped with chocolate, and they are delicious. And that is my favorite UK snacks part 1 zine. Zine number 8 is a Flexagon zine that I made. I used a tutorial from Bratty Bree to make this one. Her tutorial is great. I just found it a little difficult to quite wrap my mind around how to make this exactly, but I was able to do it. Took me a couple of attempts. I used lyrics from Florence and the Machine to make this. Here's how it works. You just kind of keep flipping it like this. And then you're back to the beginning. It just kind of goes on infinitely. I really like how this one came out. I made this in Procreate. Took some images and textures that I wanted to use and use some of my own art. Use these stickers that I made. Just kind of pieced everything together, added the lyrics, then made it into the Flexagon. I'll link the tutorial below that I used to make this. And zine number 9 is one of my favorites of the year, which is my Hallo-Zine special number 2. Last year, I made this Halloween tradition zine, and I decided I wanted to make a Halloween zine every year. One of the things I do at Halloween is, or have done for the last few years, is create a movie-thon, a list of movies. And I watch one movie every day in October to really get into the spooky spirit. This is last year's. And then this one is this year's. I really like how the cover came out. I made it kind of like a little magazine. And of course, right in the middle is my 4th annual Halloween movie-thon. So this is the 4th year I've been doing it. And then I put a little spooky letter. Here is some things to make your season a little more spooky. Of course, I have to have a playlist. I gotta have a Halloween spooky inspired playlist. Here's my spooky show spotlight, Erie, Indiana. Last year I did a spooky show as well, which is one of my favorite shows, which is Summer Camp Island. I don't usually put personal stories in my zines, but I decided to experiment and do that in this zine, and I really like that. So I'm going to maybe try and do that in more of my zines going forward. And then I had some images for things that I've been doing in spooky season so far. Around here, spooky season starts like the middle of August, so I already have been doing a bunch of spooky and fall related things, so I added some pictures. And then here is the back. And here is zine number 10. This is a zine for Ralphie, my pup that we had prior to Winston. He's an English bulldog. One of the prompts for Zine-tober this year was to make a zine about grief. And so Ralphie passed away in 2019, and I made this zine on his birthday, which was October 16th. Shortly after he passed, I made a video of his life, all the videos that I've collected of him, and we tend to watch that every year on his birthday, but I also wanted to commemorate him with a zine, especially since I made one for Winston earlier on. It just felt right to make one for Ralphie too. So here's a little bit of information about Ralphie, some pictures and stories about him when he was a baby, extra pictures. This one's very photo heavy. Funny stories and funny memories about him, things he liked, some more fun stories, cute photos, cute memories with him. I really like how this one came out. I really like that I was able to commemorate his life with a zine. Zine number 11 is the Thanksgiving menu zine. This one is kind of a helper zine for me. I have a kind of complicated history with Thanksgiving, not having grown up in the US. It took me a long time to kind of try and figure out Thanksgiving. I also find cooking Thanksgiving dinner kind of stressful. So here's what we've landed. Basically, the main things that I want out of a Thanksgiving meal for my family is to capture the essence of Thanksgiving, but also have it not be too stressful for me to make. Here's a little note about Thanksgiving and my kind of prior roller coaster relationship. Here's where I think it's going to be super helpful. I have a full shopping list of everything that I'm going to need for Thanksgiving. So hopefully next year I can just take this list. It's already done and I can just get what I need and it'll be easy. Here's the things that I can pre-prep ahead of the day. So like the day before I can pre-prep this stuff and I have information on where I can find out how I can pre-prep the different dishes. Here's the full recipes for everything that I would be making. I feel like every year I have to look up the green bean casserole recipe, so I put that in here, the pre-prep information. I found this cornbread recipe this year and it was really delicious, so this had to go in the zine. Even simple things like just boiling carrots, I put in here as well, just to include everything. Mac and cheese instructions. And then here's the cooking schedule for the day. So hopefully, if I've pre-prepped and I've gotten everything off the list, I can get Thanksgiving dinner on the table in like an hour. So I think this will be super helpful. And here's just a little bit more information about why I created the zine. And then I also put, if you're invited to a potluck Friendsgiving, I recommend the green bean casserole or mashed potatoes as an easy crowd pleaser. This one is less to distribute and more for Thanksgiving for my family and what works for me. And I think this is really going to be helpful next year and the following years for our Thanksgiving dinner. And here is the final zine of 2025. The pocket calendar. Made this one in a similar way where I just created a monochrome cover so that I could print it out on colorful paper so I could make various different versions of it. Since December is pretty busy for me, I wanted to do something a little simple, but something that would be helpful for the new year. So pocket calendar seemed like the best thing to do. Although I will say that trying to get these calendar dates in order took longer than it should have. I tried to do it without a prototype, but in the end, I really had to make a prototype. So I highly recommend whenever you're making a zine in the planning stage, just make the prototype. It's going to save time in the long time for planning. You can plan out what's going to go on each page. You can see how it's going to lay out, and it just makes printing a lot easier. So here's the Pocket Calendar 2026. This just says that each spread has a monthly calendar and a blank page. Use the blank page to customize your calendar and make it yours. So here's some ways to use a pocket calendar. Add a photo for each month, take notes for each month to plan, make a junk journal page each month, add a sticker each month, create a drawing. Lots of different ways that you could customize this. And also I feel like this is a really handy size to just throw in my bag so I can check out, the different dates of the year and keep on track for planning, because beginning of the year, I'm kind of always in planning mode for the year. So I think this will be super helpful for this year going forward. I can just throw it in my bag and make notes and have this with me. And those are all my official zines of 2025. However, I did make an extra bonus zine. If you remember this one from the beginning, Merriweather's Friendship Adventure, I made a zine to start it. Then I also made a zine as the final piece of mail. Each month in the mail that I sent a letter from me, a letter from Mary, which was a story split up into 12 parts told through her letters, and also a challenge. This is the ending to the story. So here's her initial letter before everything happens. And then this is how you choose the ending to the story. So there's a few different endings of how things can work out. Basically, you take the challenges that you completed throughout the year and choose which path that you're going to be on, light, wisdom, or courage. And then each path is going to lead you through a slightly different story, including rolling dice to see how things turn out. And then you keep a track of your stats on here as well. So it's kind of like a little mini game, choose your own adventure kind of a situation to finish up the story. And then here's a recap of the map of Lumora to see everywhere that we've been the whole time. And then one final letter from Mary just to finish everything off. So that was kind of a bonus zine that I made to finish off my friendship adventure that I made at the beginning of the year. Did you make any zines in 2025? Are you planning to make any in 2026? I don't have a goal for making zines in 2026, but there's definitely a few that I want to make, and I do want to continue making them. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.